The destruction of the One Ring at the fiery depths of Mount Doom marked the ultimate defeat of Sauron, the Dark Lord who had terrorized Middle-earth for millennia. As the ring melted away, so too did Sauron's physical form and power, leaving many to wonder, where did Sauron go when the One Ring was destroyed? Was his essence truly obliterated, or did it retreat to some dark corner of the cosmos? In this video, we will explore the fate of Sauron after the ring's destruction, diving into the lore of Middle-earth to uncover what might have become of one of its most infamous figures, the destruction of the One Ring. The destruction of the One Ring at the fiery depths of Mount Doom marked the ultimate defeat of Sauron, the Dark Lord who had terrorized Middle-earth for millennia. As the ring melted away in the fires of Mount Doom, so too did Sauron's physical form and power. His massive empire crumbled, and his armies, once bound to him by the power of the ring, were cast into disarray. But this event raised a profound question. Where did Sauron go when the One Ring was destroyed? Was his essence completely obliterated, or did it retreat to some dark corner of existence, waiting for another chance to rise? To understand what happened to Sauron after the ring's destruction, it's crucial to first understand the nature of his power and the significance of the One Ring. Sauron was no ordinary being. He was a Maiar, one of the lesser Ainur, powerful and immortal spirits created by Eru Ilúvatar, the supreme deity of Middle-earth. The Maiar were lesser in stature than the Valar, angelic beings who shaped the world, but they were still formidable, endowed with great power and wisdom. Before he became known as Sauron, he was called Mairon, a being of great intellect and capability. He sought order, perfection, and mastery of the world. However, his downfall began when he was seduced by the dark vision of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, who sought to control and corrupt Middle-earth. Under Morgoth's tutelage, Sauron became a master of deceit and manipulation, eventually becoming Morgoth's most trusted lieutenant. After Morgoth's defeat at the end of the First Age, Sauron assumed his role as the new Dark Lord and began his own campaign to dominate Middle-earth. However, Sauron's power was not inherent or invulnerable. Much of his strength was tied to the physical world, particularly to the creation of the One Ring, which he forged in secret within the fires of Mount Doom. The One Ring was the most powerful of the rings of power, designed not only to control the other rings, but also to serve as a vessel for a significant portion of Sauron's own strength and will. By binding so much of his essence to the ring, Sauron made himself nearly invincible as long as it existed, but he also created a critical vulnerability. If the ring were destroyed, so too would much of his power be lost. The One Ring granted Sauron dominion over the other ring-bearers, and his influence extended throughout Middle-earth. His physical form, though a shadow of his original grandeur, was still terrifying, and his presence permeated every corner of the land. Yet his fate was bound to that of the One Ring. The destruction of the ring would, inevitably, mean the end of Sauron's reign, the final destruction of the ring. The moment of the One Ring's destruction is one of the most pivotal events in the history of Middle-earth. When Frodo Baggins, against all odds, succeeded in bringing the ring to the fires of Mount Doom, he was overwhelmed by the ring's immense power and allure. At the moment of truth, Frodo failed to cast the ring into the flames, but it was fate that intervened. Gollum, in his obsessive madness over the ring, bit off Frodo's finger and seized the ring for himself, only to fall into the chasm of fire, taking the ring with him. In the exact moment that the ring was engulfed by the flames of Mount Doom, it was unmade, and with it, the power it held over Sauron was shattered. Sauron's physical form, already reduced to a mere shadow, was utterly obliterated. His dark tower in Mordor, the fortress that had symbolized his dominion for so long, collapsed into ruin. The Nazgûl, his most feared servants, bound to him by the power of the ring, were consumed by the fire. The armies of Mordor, once unified and directed by Sauron's will through the ring's power, were thrown into chaos. They scattered and crumbled without their master's guidance. For Sauron, this was not merely the destruction of a physical object, it was the loss of his soul's anchor to the material world. The ring was the core of his power and influence. Without it, he was nothing but a shattered remnant, a being with no form or capacity to act. At that moment, as the ring was destroyed, a cataclysmic reaction occurred. The Dark Tower of Barad-dûr fell into ruin, the very symbol of Sauron's power. Mordor, the land he had long ruled with an iron fist, began to disintegrate, slowly fading into desolation. The armies of evil, once united under the Dark Lord's will, were no more. For Sauron, the loss of the ring meant the total collapse of his ability to shape the world as he saw fit. He could no longer exert his will over Middle-earth, and the vast reservoir of malice and power that he had once commanded began to dissipate into the void. With the destruction of the One Ring, Sauron's physical presence was erased, and his ability to manifest in Middle-earth was forever severed. Fate of Sauron's spirit. Despite the annihilation of Sauron's physical form, the question of what became of his spirit remains. As a Maya, Sauron was an immortal being, and his essence could not be destroyed in the conventional sense. However, the loss of the One Ring dealt a devastating blow to his spiritual form, leaving him in a state of weakness and fragmentation. Tolkien's works suggest that the destruction of the ring did not fully erase Sauron from existence, but it left him in a state of utter impotence. Sauron's spirit could no longer project its will or take any physical shape. The destruction of the One Ring left him without a vessel to manifest his malice, leaving him a shadow of his former self, drifting in an existence removed from the physical world. Unlike Morgoth, his former master, who was cast into the void after his defeat, Sauron's spirit was not banished in such a formal manner. Instead, he was left to wander in a formless and powerless state, unable to ever take physical form again or exert influence over Middle-earth. This spiritual exile would have been a punishment far worse than mere death for Sauron. Once a being of immense power, he now found himself reduced to a state of torment, unable to act or regain any semblance of the control he once held over Middle-earth. Tolkien often portrayed evil in his work as a self-destructive force, and in this case, Sauron's lust for power ultimately led to his own undoing. His spiritual form, while still existing, was incapable of reclaiming his former glory or reshaping the world to his will. In this way, the destruction of the One Ring marked not only the end of Sauron's reign, but also the complete collapse of his vision for Middle-earth. Theories on Sauron's fate. While Tolkien's works do not provide a definitive answer as to what exactly became of Sauron's spirit after the ring's destruction, various theories have emerged, each adding a layer of complexity to the story of his downfall. One of the most widely accepted theories is that the destruction of the One Ring led to the complete obliteration of Sauron's power. With the ring gone, his spirit, though technically immortal as a Maya, was so diminished that it was rendered incapable of manifesting in the world again. This theory aligns with Tolkien's portrayal of evil as ultimately self-destructive. Sauron's hubris, his overreach in binding so much of himself to a physical object, ensured that his defeat would be total and irreversible. His spirit, though still existing, would now be a formless, powerless entity, incapable of having any influence on the world. This interpretation also fits with Tolkien's broader themes of good triumphing over evil, where Sauron's own creation becomes the source of his ultimate defeat. Another theory suggests that Sauron's spirit might have been cast into the void, akin to the fate of Morgoth, his former master. The void is an empty, timeless space outside the world, reserved for the most powerful and evil beings who had corrupted the world. If Sauron's spirit was indeed cast there, it would imply divine intervention by the Valar, or Eru Ilúvatar, ensuring that Sauron would never return. This theory is more speculative, as no clear mention is made of Sauron's banishment in the texts, but it is an idea grounded in the wider themes of Tolkien's mythology. A third possibility is that Sauron's spirit, though weakened and powerless, remains in Middle-earth in some form, a lingering evil that could one day be reborn if the conditions were right. However, given the destruction of the ring, this seems unlikely. It would require another vessel of great power or a new Dark Lord to bring about Sauron's return. Given that the world is shifting toward an age of healing and renewal, this theory seems less likely, but it nonetheless remains a part of the mythological possibilities. Ultimately, the ambiguity surrounding Sauron's fate leaves room for speculation, but the primary takeaway is that his defeat was final in the context of his reign over Middle-earth. His evil was defeated not only through physical destruction but also through the collapse of his spiritual influence. The lasting legacy of Sauron. Although Sauron's reign was ended, his legacy would linger in Middle-earth for generations. The effects of his domination, particularly through the ring, would continue to shape the world long after his physical and spiritual destruction. Sauron's influence had been vast, extending across Middle-earth through fear, control, and manipulation. His armies had ravaged lands, his corruption had tainted the hearts of men, and his very presence had clouded the skies above Mordor. The destruction of the One Ring did not immediately heal all the wounds he had inflicted on the world. The land of Mordor remained desolate, and the scars left on the hearts and minds of those who had suffered under Sauron's rule would take time to heal. Moreover, Sauron's legacy continued in the dark hearts of those who had once served him, such as the Mordor Orcs, the Haradrim, and the Easterlings. These people, having fought for him in the last battle, would have to grapple with the loss of their leader and the reality of living in a world without his oppressive rule. Would they seek new forms of power, or would they come to terms with the freedom they had gained? In a broader sense, Sauron's defeat signaled the beginning of a new age for Middle-earth, one where the free peoples, men, elves, dwarves, and hobbits, could begin to rebuild their societies without the shadow of tyranny hanging over them. Yet, his legacy was still felt in the stories, in the warnings given to future generations, and in the cautionary tales about the dangers of power and corruption. While Sauron was gone, the world he had sought to dominate would remain forever marked by his presence. The destruction of the One Ring may have ended his reign, but it did not erase the influence he had had on the world of Middle-earth, shaping it for generations to come. Conclusion. The story of Sauron, from his rise to power to his eventual fall with the destruction of the One Ring, is a tale of ambition, corruption, and the enduring struggle between good and evil. Though his physical form was obliterated and his power severed, the legacy of Sauron's reign leaves a lasting imprint on Middle-earth. The destruction of the One Ring marked the end of his dominance, but it also signaled the beginning of a new age, one in which the free peoples of Middle-earth could rebuild and heal. Though Sauron himself may be gone, the lessons of his rise and fall resonate through the ages, reminding us of the dangers of unchecked power and the enduring importance of hope, courage, and unity in the face of darkness. Thank you for watching and exploring this deep dive into the fate of Sauron after the destruction of the One Ring. Your interest in the intricate details of Middle-earth enriches the conversation about Tolkien's timeless mythos, and I hope this exploration has sparked new insights into the complex world of The Lord of the Rings.